it's Rob. Welcome to Axel's Garage. Working on Cosmo again. I don't know. I'm trying to keep the videos a little shorter, so I don't know how many videos this is, but we are putting the brakes on. Cleaned off the rotors. They only got 1,000 or so miles on them since we did the brake job, but we cleaned them up with some brake clean. Cleaned up our caliper bolts. We got all our lubes that we need, and we're going to get the rotors on the way we do it in New York, rusty vehicle style. If you don't live in a place where rust is a real problem, then you don't need to do a lot of the steps that we do. If you live in a saltwater bordering state, or a state where they brine the roads, you know you need to do things to prevent rust. So moving into our rust prevention, we're using our anti-seize. You know, before they started, they've only been brining the roads for about 10 years or so, maybe a little longer. And prior to that, because the area that I live in New York on Long Island, everybody uses you know, a utility water, but it's well water. It's water, you know, drilled out of the ground, not in private wells, but in, you know, municipality-owned giant wells, you know, that go down to an aquifer. They didn't use salt on the roads. They used sand, because we're a coastal area. Sand is plentiful, and they would sand the roads when it would snow or we get bad weather, and that would just add some traction to the slippery roads, wouldn't try to melt the ice. And I guess whatever EPA regulations that said you couldn't put salt on the roads must have changed or expired sometime in the last 2 decades, I guess. And they started using that salt brine mix, and every time we have a threat of a snow or ice storm, they brine the crap out of the roads, and then it rains, and that brine mixes with the rainwater, and not only does it go into the ground, but it sprays all underneath your car, so the underside of your car is being sprayed with salt water, pretty much. So a local mechanic was telling me that once they started brining the roads, in short time did he start doing brake lines and fuel lines on a regular basis. He said it just got out of control. So we need to take steps to protect ourselves against rust, and this is one of the steps. So a real thin coating of anti-seize on the hub face is what you need to do. So we're going to take the rotor, I'm going to grab a lug nut, I'm going to grab a spacer, which is the castle nut that we didn't use in the lower ball joints. So if you don't want to know why we didn't use this, check back in one of the previous videos where we did the ball joints. And we're going to take our rotors, and those of you that have been following along in this series, or on this car I should say, know that these are the Geomet coated power stop brake rotors. We got the coated ones. Why? Because things rust here. So I'm just using that just to hold the rotor rigid on the car, so it's easier when I put the brakes on and everything like that. So we got that ready. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our next rust preventative measure, which is our Super Coat synthetic lithium complex. What does it say here? Lithium complex grease multi-purpose anti-friction. I like it. Super Coat 2000. I like it better than traditional white grease That's just me. So you can use brake grease here. You can use white grease here. If you live in a friendlier state, you can use no grease here. But in New York, we need to use some kind of grease, and we're greasing where the brake pad tabs ride on the knuckles, which is really, they have a built-in caliper bracket, so where they ride on the caliper bracket. So we just put a thin layer on there just so that those brake pads, when they're moving in and out, have a little loop. Then we're going to take our caliper bolts and we are going to take some, there you go, you see that? Hopefully the exposure's right. I was playing with the exposure because I got some shadows. I don't know if I screwed the camera up, made it worse, made it better, but we are going to take some brake grease and we are going to put it on the threads and on the shafts of the bolts, caliper bolts, and most of this is going to get wiped off as it passes through the boot, so I put a little extra on so that when it gets wiped away, at least I still have some there, hopefully. And the same thing for the other caliper bolt. That is after we cleaned the caliper bolts. Alright, that's our brake grease, and I got them sitting here on a paper towel. Okay, so we got a rotor arm, we got our caliper brackets lubed up, and now we got our caliper, which we got hanging out of the way. How did I get this in here? Holy cow. I don't know how I fished this bungee through the caliper. I can't get it out now. What did I do? Oh, there we go. Okay. Now we shouldn't have to separate this because we didn't change the distance. We didn't put new pads on, we didn't put new rotors on, so the thicknesses should be the same. We're going to make sure that our caliper sliders slide, and these are a little sticky. So I'm actually going to take this pad out just to make it a little bit easier to get at these. But these are a little sticky. I don't like that. So I'm going to pull these pins out, and I'm going to re-lube these pins because they definitely didn't slide as good as the ones on the other side. Get out. There we go. All right, they're out. So I'm going to take this rag. See, the problem with these when you lube them is when you slide them back in to the boots, a lot of the lube wears off. So I try to get some of this lube in the boots first. I want to shove some in the boot, and I'll show you exactly why. But you saw how tight they were. So I got some lube in the boot. Oh, I'll drop that one on the floor. This one we cleaned off. And we're going to take some lube and we are going to lube it up. We don't have to worry about the inside too much because we put lube on the bolts, and hopefully it'll drag some of that lube on the bolts in with it. And then we're going to slide these back in. I'm going to drop that one too. Once you drop it, when it was covered in lube, you gotta clean it off again. Because the ground is dirty. And now we're gonna re-lube. Okay, now that we got them re-lubed, slide it in. See, and now they move nice. Alright, so now that I have the sliders all lubed up, I can put this brake pad back in. Alright, these two tabs will go onto the bottom bracket. Okay. And it's that simple. Got the two tabs on the bottom. The top ones just sit forward. There's not two, it's just one on the top. And now I can take my lubed up caliper bolts, slide them through, start them by hand. These can be 10, 12, or 13 millimeter, depending on the year and what replacement you might have gotten. These happen to be 12 on this particular one.
Hi.
Yeah.
Did you believe it's 7 o'clock already?
No.
Yeah, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock already. I'm finishing up. This is pretty much it for the day. So I seat them down, torque them to spec, and then I'm going to wipe off any excess of the purple lube that may have squeezed out. When I drove them through, and you get a little lube that pops out. But those are in, brakes are on, rotor's on. I'm not going to put the tire on yet because we need to put the tie rod together. Quick video. Got the brakes on. What I will do, just for you guys that hate that I lube everything, what I will do is before I put the tire on, I will take, you could use either white grease or anti-seize. I usually use anti-seize here because I don't want any anti-seize forward of this, so that every time you change your tire you get full of anti-seize. So I usually put a little bit of the white grease right on the snout of the hub bearing assembly where it comes through the rotor where the two metals meet. I give it a little wipe, and when I put the tires on, I'll do a dab, 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 a little tiny dab on the threads. I know you're not supposed to lube lug nut threads. I put a little tiny dab. I've been doing it for years, never had a problem with it. So that's it. We got the brakes on. Tomorrow I could change the diff fluid, put the steering stabilizer in, button up the front end, get the wheels on, and yeah, we'll be done. Pretty happy. But for today, I'm done. You heard my wife, 7 o'clock already. and we do have some family errands to run. We're hosting a birthday, 70th birthday party for Aunt Nancy tomorrow, and we got some housework to do. We got to hit some stores tonight for some of the stuff. We're not just hosting. Are we catering? We're not cooking, but we got some other stuff going on. It's being catered, but we're, usually we cater, but it's here. So we got a little cleanup in the yard to do. It's going to be outside. It's supposed to be like 95 degrees, so I got to set some tents up. She's got a whole honey-do list for me. Anyway, comments down below. Let me know about lube, what you do, how you lube, and we'll lube you later. Thanks for watching.